Hi readers, Stefan Knysna here, journalist for the Knysna Herald. We all know a couple of days ago it was the 7th of June, a year since fires swept through, starting in Elandskraal, swept through Knysna and into Plettenberg Bay. Next to me is Dr. Wallace Vosloo, a resident of the Elandskraal community and also one of the first people to put out an actual theory of what caused those fires. Since all of his information has been supplied to AfriForum, which had Dr. David Klatzau formulate their theory. But what I want you, Dr. Vosloo, to show us today is the fire was started on the same farm. Both theories say it was started on the same farm. But you say it started, Clinton Manuel from the municipalities, where did his fire start? If we can just show readers maybe in this area here.
Well, obviously we believe in he who measures knows, and he who observes with calibrated instruments knows.
Yes.
So yes, we were actually right on this croquet lawn, and from here we launched our drone. Right, the drone, basically we came onto the croquet area which we are, and we launched a drone, and the drone went directly west, across the hill which you're seeing there and the little kopiki. And then other side the little kopiki is where we had the smouldering area, and that smouldering area with the drone we could see that there were nobody there.
And that's the smouldering that was started by the lightning strike in March of last year.
If you go and take a look even on Google Earth today, you would see that before the lightning there was nothing, discoloration. After the lightning, exactly on that spot, the discoloration. So just by going to normal Google Earth today, you've already got the answer there.
Already got the answer. Now if you could also then just, alright, so that was your cause, or not your cause, your theory of where the cause started, the fire started. If you can from this point just reference to us more or less where Clinton Manuel said his theory of the fire.
Clinton's theory is quite interesting because firstly, he doesn't believe our drone footage, and he says that it was across that way, which is northwest on a little hill sitting that side, which we know only starts smoldering after the fire because of spotting. That's point one, right? And he claims that's our footage, which we prove to him is wrong. And then if you take a look here down this little valley here, which is actually more southernly down the valley, which is the south side of this hill, which is normally wet and damp. Right, where we had a pine forest, where pines were growing.
Well, I must say, I was down there a little bit earlier and I saw actual pine trees still standing there and the pine cones as well.
We looked at the pines, with the little pines which he now took photos of, and there were still leaves, and there were still these two little pine cones which was just damaged from fire. Look, it's a Pinocchio story, really.
Well guys, there you have it. Thank you, Dr. Vosloo. What you'll see after this, guys, is an interview done with Dr. Vosloo by Rein Dykema of AfriForum. Right, he's going to explain exactly what his theory says.
I'm Dr. Wallace Vosloo. It's the 7th of June, and it's exactly 1 year after the catastrophic Knysna fire started at exactly this point we're standing here. This point, when you go to Google Earth and you take a look at the Elandskraal area, you will see that next to the Karatra River there is a little section of ground which looks like a dove, and the dove's head is situated right adjacent to the river. It looks as if the river's carved out this dove's head, and I'm standing in the dove's eye, and this is where the fire originated, which resulted in the catastrophic event a year back from this position. How do we know this? Why do we say the fire started right here? Well, science is a wonderful thing, and believe it or not, Big Brother is really watching you, and also watching you with a very high resolution. Actually, the satellite imagery today, you can actually look down to 18 by 18 centimeter resolution. So, but when you go for a piddle in the bush, that young lady sitting at somewhere in the States can be having a watchful eye over you without you even knowing it. We also have systems in place in South Africa where we're continuously monitoring lightning. And the lightning monitoring system works on an antenna basis, where we basically have a lightning bolt taking place, and it radiates out electromagnetic radiation, and this radiates out in all directions. And here you've got the antennas, which is monitoring for electromagnetic radiation, and it picks up the signal, and it knows the intensity of the signal and how far this signal has actually traveled. And with triangulation you can calculate exactly where the lightning bolt took place, and have within a 98% confidence level. So we know that lightning bolt, the polarity of it, the current of it, how long the current was injected, where it terminated, and we know the exact time up to a microsecond. So 24/7 this monitoring system is monitoring lightning throughout southern Africa. And then at the same time there's satellites monitoring the area continuously. Now what happens as well is that what you see on Google Earth is a low resolution picture which they make available at no cost, so that you can see where the roads are and your little house and so on. But this high resolution stuff you can see down to minuscule detail. Now those are tools which are out there, which is available, which is running real time in southern Africa. Now let's get back to the fire here. How do we know it was here? The months ahead of the 7th, people noted that there was smoke coming from this area, and the smoke was coming early morning and late afternoon. And this concerned them, because in an environment like a forest where there's a little bit of smoke, there must be a fire, and if there's a fire that's there, you've got a problem. When that fire starts spreading within a forest, you can have absolute catastrophic situation from there, which we know because we're the victims of such an event. I mean, we lost 3 of our dear friends, which is about 1.5 kilometers from here, in that fire. And it's something which is absolutely catastrophic. But let's get back to the situation here. That was reported to all the different fire institutes, including the fire department down here in Sedgefield, and said to them, listen here folks, there's smoke coming from the specific spot. We've noted the smoke there. Can you please help? Well, meneer, listen here, you know, when you see flames and so on, just let us know. But I think actually this must be squatters, or could be bossy slapers, or, you know, guys collecting plants and so on. Yeah. So that was the response we were getting for weeks. So we decided, well, we better go and have a look ourselves, and it was very difficult to get in here. So I brought a drone. We flew with the drone, we went down, we could see where the smoldering areas were. We could see the discolored area where it was already discoloring from the burning, and it was actually not physically burning flames, but it was actually smoldering. And we could see the smoke coming from the ground, and we could identify that there's absolutely nobody here. Nobody. Zolts. Nothing. We sent that information back to our dear beloved chap down in Sedgefield, and say to him, listen here Wayne, there is no people. Well, he didn't even do the trouble to respond back. We could see on the WhatsApp we sent him that the 2 little green right marks are there, that it was delivered and that he did read it, but he didn't respond back. Anton came and he bushwhacked himself in here to come and try and see whether he can see it. He came and confirmed that there was nobody here. So now you must remember, yeah, we've got drone footage showing that there is no squatters here. We've got drone footage showing exactly where it is. We've got the observations from the people locally showing also that it's here. We've got Anton that came in showing it's here, right? So it's here, right? But what actually initiated this fire, and why the fire started off at such an early stage and was taking so long to initiate into a big fire, that I'll explain shortly. We also had a guy that flew past here with a microlight, and he's got a photo showing this area smoldering. There's another person that confirms it was here. So there's no doubt that it was here. We also now have satellite imagery showing the area before the lightning strike, showing that there was no activity here. And then directly after the lightning strike, we can see how the area where the lightning strike took place, how it was growing with time. And as it was growing with time, we can see how it was basically building up and building up and building up. Then, with the lightning detection system, we know exactly that it was a positive lightning bolt. 11 kiloamps. We know the exact position within a 98% confidence level, and we know how long the current was injected into the ground, and we know the exact date and time it took place. Great, so technology is confirming what we're saying, what took place here. Now, the scenario is that with a negative lightning bolt, you get about a 20% chance of it actually going into initiating a fire. But with a positive lightning bolt, you have an 80% chance of it going into and leading towards a fire. So it was a positive 11 kiloamp lightning bolt. The probability of that occurring, with all the evidence we have, confirms it's here. Now, I've got a weather station at my home, and the weather station, which is about 1 kilometer from here, where my home burnt down as well during the fire, that weather station, I've got 5-minute interval data points where the normal weather stations do 10-minute intervals. It's calibrated, and the guys from the aerial guys actually make use of my data through here. So we have the exact wind directions and wind speeds. Now, Clinton Manuel them actually claim that they used my data to confirm their theory that somebody in the morning came up here with pine cones and some material to start a fire. Now, Clinton Manuel claims that that morning of the 7th, somebody carried in pine cones here, and these pine cones was used to start a fire with some other vegetation. Now, that had to occur 3-4 o'clock in the morning. Then he shows photos of these pine cones that started the fire. Now, remember the intensity of this fire and what actually was needed to take what occurred here and bring it over into spotting, because with spotting you pick up these big pieces of smoldering material, and it can get deposited kilometers away with the high winds. Now, how is this guy going to get a critical amount of coals together to start such a process? It's impossible. It's not going to happen. And these same pine cones which started the fire, according to him, was still visible with some burn marks on them. Wow, but that's Clinton's theory. Now, when we take a look at what occurred here, is that a lightning bolt struck the area. And as it struck the area, it injected the current into the ground, and this current, being a positive lightning bolt, was distributed into the ground, but it was present for a long time. With a negative lightning bolt, it strikes short time, and there's not time for it to ignite. But what happens is, with a positive lightning bolt, it strikes, but its tail side of the current is long, and 100 amps flows for a long time in the ground, and that is what ignites the material. Now the material is ignited, and it smolders like a coal, like the front part of a cigar, and it sits and smolders there. So early morning, the wind comes through, and the wind just starts the coal off a little bit, and you see the smoke, and then people think, ooh, that's the smoke in the early morning. And then in the late afternoon, the wind turns and the wind comes back, and then it smokes a bit in the late afternoon, and it gives that impression. But this whole process of this coal going on only needed the right conditions to start running away, because it's smoldering and the vegetation is dry, but not dry enough to start it to actually go into full flame and start a major fire. You needed conditions to preempt it, and those conditions that happened was very similar to it's today. Warm berg winds, and then the winds start picking up. And now, once oxygen is fed into the cigar becomes white hot. And it dries out the area around it, and then that starts flaming, and then what happens is the strong wind starts picking up parts of this cigar, which is now coals, and makes it airborne and rains it out kilometers from this point. And that is how this fire was spread from this point where we're standing now. Now, if you look at this, these two technologies, the technologies of the lightning detection and the technology of the satellite, it's available. I've got a master's student which is looking at it, and the master's student is registered with Wits University and is on standby to actually take these two technologies and blend them in the following manner. What we will do is that once a positive lighting strike is detected and we know the position, we trigger the satellite to observe that position. And once the satellite sees that that position is starting to grow, it triggers and gives an alarm and say that area there is a very high risk zone for a fire to spread. And that's the basics of it. The technology is there, we know a solution, and we know how we could prevent this from happening in the future, making use of that technology. At this stage, all our data, all our information, everything is with the CSIR, and the CSIR has done an excellent report which has been peer reviewed internationally. They've got all their ducks in a row, and we're hoping that this report will become public as soon as possible so we can finally put to bed the actual reason for why the fire started and where the fire started and how the fire started, so we can take this and learn from it and go forward and help prevent this from occurring into the future. And we're doing this in the honor of the little family with Tony, Madre and little Michael. You know, it was Michael's 3rd year birthday that day, and Madre was 8 months pregnant. And it's for us as the Elandskraal community, it's a very tragic event and a very tragic day. We were very, very fond and very close to them, and we feel that in their honor, it's important that in their honor, that we help prevent this tragic type of event from occurring into the future, not only in South Africa, but worldwide.